so you're going to be interacting with our two young speakers today, and hopefully you will have lots and lots of questions and find out, how their professional journey is and where it's going to take them. Basically, I'm going to give you a very short introduction. Most of you have gone through it in the first 3 sessions that we've had. This is our 4th session of a very unique program, which will give you a better understanding of all the different professions and avenues that are there. We try and give you an exposure to unique professions which are out there. So we are going to cover a whole lot more in our future sessions. It's going to take you through, today it is data sciences, there's going to be civil services, then there's going to be economics and journalism, advertising, so a whole lot, creating content. I mean, there's so many different kinds of avenues that are open for you. And hopefully we will, with our sessions, it will give you a better insight into the life of all these young professionals that we have invited. It will also give you food for thought. Do you think you're going to like doing such a course? Do you think do you have the aptitude for it? Do you think you can do this as a job for 15, 20 years? And the most important thing is, do you think you can have fun doing such a job? So these sessions are going to give you an opportunity and time to research before you're at the threshold of 11th standard, where you need to select your subjects. This will only give you a better understanding of your decisions, the information that you have, and you can put all this together before deciding on your career path. So relax, sit back and enjoy and participate in the sessions. All our speakers are young, dynamic people who are going to click with the millennials. So thank you so much for being here with us on our platform. I'm going to hand it over to Nitin with the introductions of our young speakers. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this series, career series. My name is Nitin Kulkarni, and I am the other half of the Flashcards platform. And great to have Shivani and Ankit here with us. Let me just go through a very, very quick introduction. So our first guest today is Ankit Gadi. Ankit is driven by a knack and passion for data science, coupled with a very strong foundation in operations, research, and statistics. He has close to 6 years of experience in delivering analysis, actionable insights, and building data science solutions. He started with implementing data science in the domain of digital marketing, e-commerce, and currently is leading a team, and he's responsible for all data science initiatives at a startup. So that is our first guest, Ankit. I'm now going to introduce our second guest, Shivani Pethe. So Shivani considers herself a passionate statistician. After a bachelor's degree in statistics, she got a diploma in applied statistics. Shifting streams slightly, she got a master's in operational research and is currently pursuing a PhD in management from IIM Calcutta, studying resilient value chains. In her free time, she learns new coding languages, dabbles in various organizational techniques, reads fiction, spends time chilling with her dogs, and shares PhD memes on Instagram. That last one is fairly inevitable, right, with this generation. So thank you both of you for joining us. I am now, I'll tell you what sorts of things we are going to explore today. Before I hand over to Ankit and Shivani, we are going to talk about a few, we are going to try and get answers to a few of these questions. Number one, data science is a relatively new term and is a common buzzword today, right? We hear so much about it. So they're going to tell us what it means and the different career opportunities available to students. We are going to get into a little bit detail of data science and research. But before that, they are going to lay out the opportunity space in this field for us. They're going to tell us a little bit about, as a working professional, what they do. They are also going to take themselves back to their 8, 9, 10 standard days and talk about what made them consider this stream and why, what were their passions and why they chose this. They're going to talk about subject choices, 11th and 12th. They're also going to talk a little bit about streams, colleges, entrance exams, preparations required in 11th and 12th. Lots to go through, and we hope to get through that. And in the end, we will have some time for you to ask questions. The chat window is closed right now, but we will open it towards the end of their talk. And you can type in your questions and we will try and get as many answers as we can. So without further ado, I suppose that's the term, I am going to hand it off to Ankit and Shivani.
Okay. Thank you for that kind introduction. And quickly, without wasting any time, I would like to welcome you all, and let's just get into it. So we are basically going to cover it in 4 stages. So let's just start while, we have already got an introduction, but I just want to quickly cover, went in Sanskriti school, 11th, 12th, did commerce and maths. And post that, I did statistics honors. Now, why did I go for statistics? So just giving you a brief idea, I have always been interested in mathematics, statistics, and between mathematics honors and statistics honors, statistics was more on the applied side, which is what I really wanted to go for. Post that, I went from my master's, which is in master's in operations research, which is operations research is like a combination of maths, stats, and computing. After that, I got a PPO and in an internship, and then post that I've been working, and I've worked with 2 different companies, currently leading a team in data science. Now we'll slowly go into the terms of what does data science mean, what does a data science person do actually in their day-to-day work as well. But in general, we are using data to solve problems of a particular client or a particular organization with the objective of either improving the the profitability or the benefits of it, or reducing the costs in some shape or form or the other.
Right. Hi, thanks for the introduction. I'm going to take Ankit's lead and jump right into my background and what I've done, and then we can go as per our plan. So I'm originally from Bombay, so I did my 11th and 12th in Acharya A.V. Patel Junior College. It is an unknown college, which is absolutely fine. I picked PCM. So I don't know how many of you are aware, the physics, chemistry, math streams, because honestly, I hated biology. That's why I picked these streams. Then I basically went with my peers and followed the standard let's do engineering kind of a situation. So I did not pick BSc statistics as like my first choice. I was just kind of thrown into it. So when I gave my engineering entrances, my mom insisted that I join some kind of a graduate school as a backup, which is where I enrolled in a BSc statistics program at Mirabai College, which just happens to be very close to my house. Which is and she insisted that I actually go and attend college, which is where I fell in love with statistics. So that's how my journey in stats actually started. After that, I got a diploma in applied statistics. So expect a lot of entrance exams throughout your life. Once you're through with your graduation, I give an entrance exam for my diploma. I give an entrance exam for my master's. And operations research, or OR as it's called, I picked because, like Ankit said, it was more applied, more practical, more directly. I could see the applications more directly than in statistics. And as you all know, I am currently pursuing my PhD in management at IIM Calcutta. So what I do, what a researcher, particularly a researcher in management, tries to do every single day is we look at the real world. We see what is interesting, what's happening. The Suez Canal is blocked up, the semiconductor chips are not available in the world, right? And we look at all this, we use maths, some kind of pure mathematics and pure statistics to model these and find solutions that could potentially help us either solve the problems that exist right now or avoid such problems in the future. That's basically the umbrella of what I do on a day-to-day basis. Ankit, we could.
Sure. Let's just quickly break down into the different roles that you can essentially pivot into post doing your mathematics or statistics in the future. So the first role that I will quickly take you into is data science. And within data science, there are different subcategories. You can do data analyst, you can do data scientist, but essentially the objective of the role is, can I take some data and solve a particular problem? Can I take some data and build a model, maybe some predictive model or prediction that helps solve the problems of a particular individual or an organization? Apart from that, you also have options in actuaries, which is specifically to do with how do you design an insurance? What are the premiums that you should set for life insurance or health insurance, and so on and so forth. Apart from that, consulting, which is, like Shivani pointed out, close to using mathematics and statistics, but basically using your domain knowledge to solve a particular problem.
Right. So I will talk about the research side of careers that you can potentially pursue. Let's remember that most or all research oriented careers would require you to get a PhD, which means that it would be a significant investment of years' time for you before you actually start working. So a PhD is on an average about 6 years after your master's. So take that into account. Basically, we primarily have two different forms of careers. One is academia and the other is research science. So the main difference between the two of these is academia is, it, as is obvious, it involves teaching, it involves being a part of a teaching school and doing research, teaching courses, designing courses, contributing to your institute, whatever it is. Let's say I'm an IIM Calcutta. If I were to become a professor there, I would help plan the future of IIM Calcutta. I would teach students, I would design courses, and I would be mandated to do and conduct and publish a certain amount of research every single year. Research science, on the other hand, is a more applied form of research where you would probably be working with a company. And in academia, academic research, what you're trying to do is further the knowledge that exists in a particular field. Whereas in research science, what you would be trying to do is you would be trying to take academic research and make it more tangible, in the sense of you would make it, I want to do XYZ to make my company money. But XYZ comes from my understanding of both how the world functions as well as my understanding of pure mathematical models. I'll hand off to Ankit for our next.
Okay. So if you look at a couple of years back, nobody actually heard the term data science, and it has become widely popular because of a couple of reasons. But the main reason is because of the availability of large amount of data. Every time you're using your application, you're using your phone, you're generating some amount of data because you're taking some actions over there. And data science jobs right now, again, a large amount of data is available, and the future is a lot in data science because a lot of openings, a lot of growth that has happened since 2012, and it's just going to even explode further. And I'm pretty sure you have already come across applications, whether, when you're searching something on Google, you get the most relevant information. When you're looking at e-commerce like Amazon, you get product recommendations, and that is all being powered by data science. So data science essentially consists of 3 parts, right? Understanding the domain, like for example, do I have knowledge about how banking systems work? So that could be a domain. Second, the mathematics or the statistics behind it. And third is the coding. These 3 combined together formulate what we call data science. And you're essentially trying to figure out what happened, why it happened, what will happen and what should be done so that you can advise your respective problem on how to solve it. So that is the overall game when it comes to data science. And I'll just give you a quick brief on other applications as well. So for example, in finance, there's so many millions of transactions happening every day, but we actually end up building models sometimes to identify which transaction could be a fraud. Similarly, when we talk about, travel or commute, you're ordering something from Grofers, or when Google Maps is giving you the best way to reach your destination, that also has some form of optimization, some form of machine learning that is being done at the back end.
So I think this is a quote that I love, that embodies the idea of research. Basically, what we do in research is we look at everything that everybody that came before us has done, and then we try and ask a new question, and we try our best rather to find an answer to this new question that we've asked. Yeah. So in research, right? So it's very hard for me to kind of very specifically talk about mathematical research, because maths and stats is implicitly a part of all kinds of research that you will do, whether it is in biological sciences or management. Maths and stats will form an integral part of all forms of research. But obviously, since we are focusing on research with maths and stats, these are some of the domains that you can be researching in. Management is one. Other than that, you could actually go and do research in data science. So like Ankit is talking about the models that you build, you could be the person creating these models, which a data scientist will later go ahead and use. So you could be doing that. That would form a part of pure maths or pure stats research. Essentially, what we try and do, like I said, with research is that if you're in academic research, what you will try and do is see what everybody that came before you has studied, and you will try and collate all this information, try and wrap your head around it, and say, oh, look, here is something that nobody thought to ask. Go back and check if nobody's really asked that question. And then if it really happens that you're the first one to ask this question, or you're the first one to frame this question in this way, then you go ahead and then you conduct whatever research methodology you've picked to try and answer that question. So in academic research as well, there are two forms of research. One is a theoretical research and one is a data-based research. So theoretical research would mean I design a world with boxes and arrows. That's what I do. I do theoretical research, which means I design a world. I look at our world. I try and place it in a boxes and arrows kind of diagram. Person A sold product A to person B. That's what I create. And then I use, instead of using direct numbers, because I am just trying to encompass as much of the world as possible. So instead of using specific numbers, I use variables to try and find relationships between A and B. That's theoretical research. What empirical research or data-based research would mean is that I ask a very specific question about something that is happening in the world. I gather numbers, I actually gather data to answer this question. And then I, very similar to data science, I run models on this data and I try and answer the question that I've asked. So the research that you would do in research sciences, which is if you go to the industry, the research that you would do would primarily be empirical research, because as I said before, you're actually trying to earn the company money. In academic research, you have more of a leeway to just try and answer questions about the world. So that is one freedom that I receive in academic research that I probably would not get if I was in research science working for a company. It could be, yeah. So these are some of the some questions that me and some of my peers are studying right now. Right. So
may I ask a question that came to my mind?
Yes,
just as you were speaking, Shivani and Ankit, is that things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, again, other than data science, these are big buzzwords. Now, are these things related in some way to data science?
Yeah, I'll take that up. So machine learning is actually, and artificial intelligence are like parts of data science. And when you say machine learning, basically what it means is you feed the system, your model, enough data points, and it will start to recognize patterns and therefore make a prediction.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So go
Right.
on. Sorry
So
to
just,
interrupt you.
no,
Yeah.
that's fine. Just adding to that, I think the basic model is what is called a regression model, which essentially helps us find, look, this is how, the money I pay and the joy I get are related to something each other. That is the most basic form of a model. And then machine learning is one stage advanced of that, and AI is another stage over that. So it's just more advanced levels of the same thing.
Right.
Okay. Go on.
So yeah, as I was saying, these are some of the questions that some of my peers have been studying, and so have I. So as you know, we're all going through the pandemic, and if we remember early on in the pandemic, when the vaccine had just come out, there was this big discussion about which we had two forms of vaccine. One needed this temperature, the other needed this temperature, double dose or single dose. We had all that happening, right? So it was somebody who's actually a supply chain researcher who came up and said, you know what, based on XYZ and the situation of our country, it would be best if we were to pick this vaccine and go with two doses because of whatever, these reasons. So that is the kind of impact you can actually make on a day-to-day basis with management research or research in stats and maths. So that was essentially a mathematical model that answered the question of which vaccine to pick and how to distribute that vaccine. Some other interesting questions. So there is mathematical sociology. Why I chose to include this, though I'm not studying it, is because it's a very new and upcoming field. Basically, what we do in mathematical sociology is we try and look at social phenomena in the world, herd behavior. Why does everybody start selling stocks when the prices start dropping? Or why does everybody start buying stocks when the prices start rising? We take these phenomena and we try and actually put them into a mathematical equation, which I think is a really beautiful thing that we're able to do as human beings. So, that is a very up and coming field for any of you who are interested in both maths and something different like sociology or anthropology. Other questions, marketing, advertising, I don't think I need to elaborate on those. We all know that, like Ankit said, data is everywhere. And because data is everywhere, maths is everywhere. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Ankit, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So based on, our experience between me and Shivani and, the things that we have gone through, we've kind of quickly collated a bunch of things that I think you all should consider. So firstly, just figure out what are the favorite subjects or fields that you like the most, that you find interesting, and try to go deeper. Like for example, for me, when I talked about maths and stats, I was more interested in the practical application whenever I used to see the questions and, like this is how the rate of the train is going and this is what we should do. I would correlate more to that because I could practically imagine what is happening and how it is working. So that was the interest point for me. So similarly, try to diagnose what exactly do you like about that subject, right? Secondly, what are the different elements, what research more about that field, what are the different elements that make the profile. So when it comes to, for example, data science or analytics, you need to know coding, you need to know statistics or mathematics, you need to understand the domain that you're going to be working in. And based on that, then you can try out different things. So for example, if I have not tried my hand in coding yet, I'll try to understand what are the coding languages like R, Python, and just try my hand at one or two simple things so that I can essentially try to understand, is coding meant for me, or do I find interest? Because that is something that you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis.
So I think adding a couple of things to that, before you pick a career path or intend to go down a particular career path, I would suggest, as somebody who has fallen for my fair share of very long study years, do your research on how long it is going to take for you to actually start working. Because I know some people have this urge to get my hands dirty very quickly and I need to start working very quickly because these books are making me crazy. then you'd want to pick a career path accordingly, versus if you're somebody that, enjoys I want to read, I want to explore, I want to spend some time learning more, pick your career path accordingly. So I would suggest do a little bit of research on time to working, because that could potentially impact a lot of choices that you make later.
Correct. So basically just try out different things and figure out, what is exactly the thing that I like doing the most, so that you can essentially ascertain whether you want to do it over a long period of time or not.
Just sorry, one last thing. Approach people, talk to different people, ask them questions. You are not going to find all the answers to everything on a Google search. You will find a lot of answers on a Google search, but you will not find all the answers on a Google search. Use LinkedIn, use your social media, follow people, ask questions. I guarantee that more often than not, people are willing to take their time to answer questions. Even if you think they're stupid, they're not. I assure you, anything that you think is a stupid question, at least 20 other people want to ask, so you might as well just do it. People will take the time to answer your questions, and that will help you figure out whether a certain path is meant for you or not. So ask questions, use your social media. It will work in your advantage.
Yeah, and more knowledge you gather, more questions you ask, more clarity you'll have to make your decision. So it never hurts to ask whatever question that you have. Right. And once you start getting this understanding, start, highlighting the different courses or the colleges that you want to do. So for example, when it comes to statistics, I looked at DU, I looked at Christ University, I looked at Narsi Mohanji. So I made a checklist of all the different colleges that are available, and then I prioritized them so that I could prepare for their entrance exams or apply respectively based on whatever college there was.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit about us, I guess. These are some of the questions that we thought you would want to know the answers to. And I guess, Ankit, you want to go first?
Sure. So why did we choose statistics? So for me personally, it was just the interest in field in mathematics. And I wanted to do more with applied portions of maths. So that is why statistics.
Right. So like I said before, I went down the whole, everybody's doing engineering, so I should. I went through the motions. I did my JEE prep and all that. And after I'd given my engineering exams, I kind of applied to a graduate course because my parents insisted that you need to have a backup. So stats, Bombay, I was in Bombay University, which allows you to pick 3 subjects in the first year. So I did math, stats, and computer science in my first year, because I honestly thought, on the off chance that I don't get into engineering, computer science is something I can do. Right. So, and then I started going to class because my parents made me, even though none of my friends were going. And I just found stats and fell in love. That's what happened.
Great. Now, what was our first choice, and did we have backup options? So for me personally, maths and stats was the first choice, but I did have a lot of backup options. So apart from looking at multiple colleges, I also looked at the second best options that I had. For me, economics seemed to be that one. So I went for BBE, I applied in some voices. I went through a bunch of colleges for BBA, gave the interviews and everything. But eventually I got into stats honors, and that's where I ended up going towards.
Right. So like I said, I had already picked a minor in computer science along with my stats and maths. So I thought, if stats doesn't work out for me and I don't get into my engineering college, I'm going to study BSc computer science. I found stats by accident. But also when I was applying to my graduate programs, I did apply to a couple of different programs. So I got into the math, stats, computer science program. Narsi Mohanji was also offering this economic stats computer science program, which they were potentially going to offer in my year, but didn't end up offering. They offered it in the next year. So, I think just segueing a little bit out of this, potentially, add on subjects that you could study to maths and stats would be economics, computer science, management. Ankit, if you have any others that you want to add.
No, I think that basically covers
Yeah.
it.
Right. So exploring any one or more of these subjects as your minors would probably open up more avenues for you in the future, as opposed to if you study one single subject throughout. So Ankit, why did you go for your masters?
Yeah. Okay. So so while I was doing my bachelor's in statistics, towards the end of the year, I was evaluating whether this is where I stop and go for some job, or basically if I go for my master's. And I was particularly just wanted to go more deeper into the field. And I started researching. So I applied for MSc statistics, I applied for a master's in operations research, gave the entrance exams and everything. But I knew from the get-go that operations research was more practical, whereas statistics from the curriculum and whoever I talked to, I got to know that it was more theoretical in nature. So I hedged my bets accordingly and went for operations research.
Right. So sorry to all the parents, but I am going to reveal this information. I did not do as well as I should have in the final year of my graduation. So Mumbai University MSc Statistics did not give me direct admission. So I started exploring other avenues that I had. I gave a couple of entrance exams, but didn't get into any of the colleges that I liked, or some of them were, colleges I didn't like, such and such. So I decided not to go in for my master's in that year. What happened is I found this diploma in applied statistics in Mumbai University while I was scouring the websites for, what I can do next if I don't get into a master's course of my choice, which is where I found this postgraduate diploma, which was a 1-year program. There I actually studied, until my graduation. Like Ankit said, statistics ended up being a lot more theoretical than application oriented. It was in this diploma course, which was designed to prepare students to work in a company, that I started learning about data science. I started learning about, how stats can be applied. And which is where I figured out that, the application of stats and maths is actually called operations research. So after getting this diploma, I decided, you know what, I want to get a postgraduate degree. So I am going to get an MSc in OR. So I think back then only 3 colleges had MSc OR. Hyderabad University, Delhi University, and IIT Bombay and Kanpur had this joint program. So I applied to DU and I got in. The rest is history.
Cool. Yep. Let's keep moving.
Yep.
Sure. So we just cover the key takeaways, and then I think we can just open up for the respective questions that anybody has. So just try to identify, what interests you. And in data science, like I said, there are several elements, and domain knowledge is something that you can gather once you start working. But coding, you need to know whether it interests you or not, because sometimes people, go for data science and then they realize later on that, coding is something that I just can't fathom, just can't do. It's just too difficult for me. And then they get stuck because they have to figure out how do they want to maneuver that, and so on and so forth. In your current years, what you can at least do is just follow the news, figure out what is happening in the world of data science, how people applying it, because every time you'll hear the news of how it has been innovatively applied somewhere in terms of data science, it will interest you, and that will actually build your motivation to study forth and go for any type of field. Like we addressed before, have backup colleges lined up, understand what are the entrances that you need to give to make sure that you get in, and then just start prepping for that as well. And apart from that, once you get into your bachelor's, once you pick up your first course, figure out where you can do an internship so that you get a brief understanding of how the professional world works. Because from college to professional world, it's a completely different environment which you'll not be used to from day one. So it gives you a very good understanding of how things work there. And of course, your work profile is also gets more clear of what you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis.
Right. So if you're interested in going into a research kind of a role, I would suggest start getting involved with some kind of a research project early on in your career. Graduate school would be ideal, but as a graduate student, they probably won't let you do too much research. So definitely once you get into a postgraduate program, get involved in some kind of a research project just so you know what the day to day looks like. Because unlike when you're working in an industry, when you're working in a company, academic research particularly tends to be a rather lonely field. It's just you and your computer all day, every day. Half of the week, I don't even talk to other people. So you need to keep yourself motivated. So along with, I think, figuring out just your degrees and your colleges, entrance exams, all that, I would suggest look at I know it's hard. I mean, I know as a 10th standard kid, you're going to say, what is this woman talking about? But look at yourself as a person and think about what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. If you are somebody that is able to keep yourself motivated to study every day without somebody having to tell you, you will probably be a good fit in research, as opposed to if you're somebody that needs to be constantly told to do something. If you're somebody that works with deadlines, well, you're probably a good fit for industry. If you're somebody that can motivate yourself to stick to your self-assigned deadlines, you will probably be a good fit in research. So just figure out your personal strengths and weaknesses, and if you like a particular domain, then try and work on yourself to improve skills and your personality to kind of fit into that domain. I don't know if that's possible, but at least you can give it a shot. Right. So I think we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. All right. First of all, let me tell both of you, I mean, this was a wonderful presentation. How I'm so impressed with how articulate both of you are and the clarity of thinking demonstrated by both of you in presenting this, the candor. I wish I could do that when I was your age, but pipe dream. But anyway, a couple of thoughts crossed my mind as I was listening to both of you. So recently I had read a book, not recently, a few years ago, called How Not to Be Wrong. I don't know if you have read that. It's a book by a guy called Jordan Ellenberg. And it talks about how maths underlies many of the common things that happen to us in life. And it's a fascinating book. And listening to you, I could understand that, how the work that both of you do actually influences us in everyday lives. So that is one thing that came to mind. The second thing that really struck me that I didn't do as a youngster is your point about dabbling in various things and talking to a lot of people. And I think we do not understand the power of our networks and talking to different people and actually dabbling in things to figure out if I really going to like it. For example, if you want to be a doctor, go sit in a doctor's clinic, see what they do, that sort of thing. It's just amazing how something like that can really give you an insight into what really happens in that profession. So that's the other thing that really was a very interesting thing I heard from you, and a light bulb went on in my head. I wish I had spoken to you 35 years ago, but I couldn't have. I'm going to ask you one final question before we get into Q&A. Which is a question that we get asked a lot by parents and students alike. So the fields that you are talking about, can I make a good living? Can I earn a very good salary? Can I have a good lifestyle doing what you are doing? Or am I going to be stuck in a teaching job, making a meager salary and, hit a dead end? So talk to us about a little bit about, career prospects, remuneration, etc. What do you think?
Right. So I think I can most definitely say whether you get a teaching job or not, you can definitely have a comfortable life. But as is the case with probably a lot of fields, depending on what precise career you choose to join, and what qualifications you come with, how motivated you are, how much you fight when you're on the job. I think there is a wide band of pay scales that you could be across. So what I think I would say as a takeaway when it comes to salaries, I mean, we have some numbers if you want numbers, but what I would say as a key takeaway is you're probably not going to be very happy with your salary, as well as, more importantly, your job profile if you are just a graduate. So if you pick this form of career, I would personally suggest at least getting a master's, or if not, getting alternative certifications, whether it's your actuaries, whether it's your quantitative finance, whether it's, other degrees in coding, data science, whatever it is. So there are master's degrees available in data science now. So I think I would personally suggest that if you're looking at this as a career path, you will have to do something beyond just a graduation to have that kind of a comfortable life and a great job that I love, kind of a situation. If you want numbers, we have numbers, but I'm going to ask if Ankit has anything to add.
So I'll just quickly add on that. Yeah, I completely agree. And just to add, at the point of time that at least when me and Shivani were doing masters, there was no option for masters in data science. We just had operations research, and then we have to pick up everything that we wanted to learn on the job on the side. At least that's what the case was at that point of time. Now you have these options available. So yes, Shivani is completely right. The choices that you make, there's a big band of things in terms of the pay scales. Apart from that, which institute you go to, what are the things that you learn, also have a lot of bearing on what you end up with. Third, as data science is becoming popular, the amount of competition is also going to increase. So you will have to definitely fight more. You'll have to do more certifications. You'll have to build your profile so that when you get to the stage where you're applying for a company, you're the choice that stands out the most.
So I guess the bottom line is you can make a really good living doing this. Yeah. There's a lot
you have to work hard though.
You have to work hard. And like in any other field, you don't work hard or I mean, that's a given. You have to work hard. You have to work on yourself, keep learning in this fast paced environment. And then you can make a really good living, right? Good career. Then I can see that Ankit has a lovely little studio behind him, and he seems to be doing really well in life. So I mean, that was a joke, but I know that in this field people can make a really good living if they are good at what you do. So the bottom line is, make sure that you like doing this and that you get really good at it by working hard, certifications and all of that. Money will follow. Money is not a problem in this field. So
I think what a lot of us don't realize is that for any job, whether it's research or data science or anything, essentially the day to day can get very boring. So unless you really enjoy what you're doing, like the end result of what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve, it's going to be very hard to keep yourself going through the everyday crunch of I'm sitting in front of a computer, I'm reading a paper, I'm writing the same old thing 20 times. Unless you're really focused and really enjoy what you're going to achieve or what you're trying to achieve, it's going to be very hard to keep yourself going.
Cool. Great. Thank you very much, both of you. We have opened the chat window, so please type out your questions. We have a hand up. Giri Goyal has his hand up. So please go ahead and type out your questions. We'll take as many as we can. From Mithali to everyone, can you please share this PPT? We'll let you know. I'm not really sure. This PPT belongs to our guests here. We will talk to them and find out if we can, but I can't give you a commitment right now. So I'm going to hand off to Suniti to start taking. Suniti, you're on mute.
Yeah. Question from Sai. She's asking, what do you think is a success mantra?
Ankit?
Okay. So I would keep it simple. Whatever you basically decide, whatever you stick to, just make sure that you're at it. You should have a lot of patience, because day to day, no matter what, the media cycle or whatever anybody says, eventually it will get monotonous for you. So you just have to stick at it and put in the hard work. And the more hard work that you put it in your initial years, the better you'll be set up in the future. It's an investment of your time and effort.
All right.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Ankit. Okay, there's another question here. Does it make sense to take applied maths instead of pure maths then?
So I think depends on your career first, but because if you want to go into research, then pure maths is what you should do. But I think if you want to go into a more applied role, applied maths and maths would kind of give you a similar end result. But I think I would always, personal bias probably, I would always advocate for a pure maths or a pure stats degree, because it will always give you the foundation that you need to understand everything else.
Okay.
If I know the math, I can understand the workings.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there's just to follow up with the same with another question from Anupama ma'am. So Miss Mehra is actually the principal of the Navy School in Goa. So she has another question here, and then I'll take Sumod's question. So she says CBSE offers, and so does our school. Does it offer applied maths, ma'am? So I'll let
sorry.
Anupama ma'am write, type it out.
Sure.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. So CBSE does offer applied maths. Okay. That's great. That's great to know. All right. So there's another question. There's a question from Sumod. So he is asking, it seems there are multiple pathways into a data science career. For example, both of you have a pure science background. Some have an engineering background. Is one preferred over the other in the industry?
So what I'll tell you is this, it's very simple. Because data science in itself is made of statistics, mathematics, and coding. So from somebody, coming from an engineering background, definitely will have a good understanding on the coding part. But then once they get in, they will have to work twice as hard, because they have to catch up on the statistics and mathematics. But yes, you're right. There are multiple ways to get into the data science career, but it depends on how much effort you'll have to put in post you get in.
And I think also depends on what kind of role you're approaching. If
Going
you're more
for.
towards a data engineer kind of a role, computer science would work just as fine,
Perfectly
as
well,
opposed to
yes.
if you were like a data scientist per se.
So yeah, so just a follow-up on that. So what is the difference? I mean, a computer, someone who has taken up computer science and someone who's a data scientist who's doing the applications part of it, like Ankit is. What would be the difference in their roles?
Yeah, sure. So I'll quickly give a brief. One is in terms of different roles. We have data analyst. The role of a data analyst is to look at the data, build insights, identify interesting findings from the data so that you can deliver it to your client. When it comes to being a data scientist, you need to be more affiliated with the maths and stats, because you're actually building and applying the algorithms. These algorithms will help you, using the data, make certain predictions, right? So therefore, having a key interest or understanding in statistics is going to give you an added advantage over someone who has probably done just computer science and then coming into the field, because they will still be catching up to the basics of, or the foundations of statistics. But both approaches are relatively fine. However, you get an added advantage with pure maths or pure stats.
So I just, somebody is talking about what is the difference between a data engineer and a data scientist in the follow-ups. So
Okay,
basically a data, Ankit, you want to take it? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So a data engineer. So basically what happens is we have data in different forms, shape, at different locations. The data engineer's primary role is to take all the data from different sources, build a solution so that it can do it on a continuous basis and put it in a standardized form in whichever format the data scientist needs it for the respective analysis, for the respective model building, and so on and so forth.
Right. So
Okay.
an engineer would manage the data, a scientist would use the data.
Correct.
Okay. So there's a question here. Samiha, I'll take your question a little later since we are on this topic. If I get into a domain under data sciences, will I be able to change the domain under data sciences itself if I'm no longer interested in the work or don't want to work in that field?
Yeah, I think data science is one of the most malleable fields that is available to moving. I know people who have been CAs and have moved into data sciences. I know people who have been in biological sciences and have moved into data sciences. So movement in and out of the field is not very problematic. As long as you build the required skill set, I think movement even within the career frame, vis-a-vis engineer, scientist, analyst, or inside or outside the career frame is very easy in data sciences particularly.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll just add to that. So, there are, even in data science, if you don't want to go into the pure maths, or you tried the model building, but you didn't like it, or you weren't able to keep up with that, you can just go for a data analyst or a business analyst role, and there's growth trajectories that you can take over there also. And apart from that, there are opportunities because data science is being applied in so many different areas, from finance, marketing, and so on and so forth. So you can just switch your career from to a different vertical, and you'll still be doing something that is completely different or new within the realm of data science.
So there's a question here. So this person is asking, Girik, what if someone is good in maths but has no interest in the coding? Should he try to opt for a career in data science? Or is coding an integral part of data science, and that's something that you can't get away from?
So if you're going for a data analyst type role, you probably don't need that much coding. However, you'll still need some of it, because ultimately you have to transform the data, figure out the data, and some or the other coding or tool will be required for it. But you'll have to get accustomed to coding when it comes to data science, because that's how it is.
You could consider research if you hate coding and love maths. I do not code at all. I mean, I like coding, I just don't do it for my work.
Okay. And okay, and then what are the core subjects for data science? Maths and stats is there, obviously. What else?
Like I said before, I think you could study computer science, one. Economics would be always an add-on. The other one, so if you're a stats major, study maths. If you're a maths major, study stats. I think these are more or less that's where we fall. Like we fall under the umbrella of maths, stats, computer science, with economics being an added expertise, because eventually you want to use these in business, and all business is based on economics. So that's how economics kind of plays into the picture.
So these are some of the subjects that would be taught to them in college if they take this up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me go back here. So data scientist as a post-graduation, example, Gandhinagar IIT, after statistics, maths and economics degree, will it make more sense?
If you're clear on joining the industry and you're sure you want to do this, yes, I think it will make sense. Also, you have a lot of degrees offered by very good colleges abroad that you can consider. I know Carnegie Mellon has a great data science program. I know Harvard has a great data science program. I know there are a few colleges in Europe that have great data science programs. London School of Economics is one of them. So, you can also look abroad for your courses or jobs or whatever. I mean, depends on your life goals.
Okay. So this is another question. As AI / ML is evolving, how do we see role of humans for career prospect in data science and analytics?
Okay. So I'll take that up. So yes, AI data science in itself is evolving. So as this is an evolving field, you will have to essentially over time, read more things, keep up with it. That is point one. point two, we are not at the stage where, it is removing human beings from the loop. That's very, very far off, right? What we can essentially claim as of now is that these systems can provide assistance to human beings with things which are not possible, especially when you have to do it at scale. For example, when I was talking about fraud detection, if you have to process millions of transactions manually, nobody can do it. However, what a machine learning or data science model can do is it can shortlist a few, transactions and say, you know what, maybe this is something related to fraud, and some human can review it and say, okay, this is a fraud or not. So a human is still going to be in the loop.
Right. I think if we think about it as, what happened in manufacturing in India about 40 years ago, which is that we used to be a primarily labor-based manufacturing country. And then as machines came in, people started thinking, you know what, I'm a laborer, I will not have a job if machines take over production. What happens essentially is that humans just move up the hierarchy. Now you don't have a man, you have a machine that picks up things and moves them to a different place, but you still need a human to run that machine. So I think that's where we're at with AI, ML, and data science changes.
Well said, Shivani. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Samiha's question here. She has 3 questions. So maths is always talked about as a complex subject. What would you say about it? Are social skills valued in this field? And were you ever afraid of taking a wrong turn, as in ending up with something that you didn't like or comprehend?
Okay, let's take it one by one. So maths is a complex subject. Yes, I agree to some extent, because you have to do all those theorems and everything, and especially in school, you have algebra or trigonometry, which just becomes a different devil altogether. So I completely understand the perspective there. For me, it was, I think, made simpler because of the professor that I had, which essentially motivated me or guided me in that space. So it became relatively much easier to me because of the way the person used to explain it. And today you have a lot of these different sources from YouTube. Free sources are also available, and a lot of these guys are just good at explaining this stuff at the most simplest level. So just augment your learning apart from your college sources, but also look at these sources, because that will also help you.
Definitely. I think maths, okay, very honestly, it is a little complex, but I think we get a bad name way more than we deserve, because of, like Ankit said, the way we have to study it in school. So let's remember that maths that happens in the real world is not the theorems that you're made to memorize in school. It is so much more than that. And use your YouTube, use all these sources to appreciate the beauty that maths adds to the world. And I think once you are there, once you get why we're doing all this, I think the theorems will just become, something that you just grunt work that you have to get through to actually end up doing what you love.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more point here. So in my day-to-day work, I'm not proving some theorem, just to be clear.
I, on the other hand, am every single day.
Yes, correct.
So you can pick your career on where you want to go.
So Suniti, I'll take the second question. Are social skills valued in this field?
Yeah.
And having been a career professional for a long time and advising professionals in their careers for a long time, I can tell you social skills are valued in every single field. So how you relate to people, how you work with them, how you collaborate, how you resolve conflicts, how you present, like these 2 young professionals, the way they presented today, all of these skills. So what happens is, I'll tell you, the first 5 to 7 years of your career, it's your technical and functional skills that dominate what you do. But Ankit will sort of nod his head when I say this, that after that, these social skills and what is quote unquote known as emotional intelligence starts to take over. And if you really want to get really good at things, and I'm not talking about research, but working in a corporate environment, you want to really increase your impact, social skills are indispensable. Okay,
Yeah,
back
so
to you. Back to
adding
you
Yeah.
to
guys.
what he said, even in research, while I did say that it is a rather lonely field in the sense that I am not meeting with 10 people every single day, but there is a lot of bureaucratic maneuvering that is involved when you're in research, whether you're in India or abroad. You have to apply for funding, you have to get your proposals out, you have to present in conferences, you have to convince people that the research I'm doing is valid.
Mm.
So how you connect to people, and how something simple like, I was unable to prove a theorem that I needed to prove, and my advisor is really mad at me, and I need to be able to deal with that without breaking down and saying, I don't know, my life is ruined. So even in research, even though you won't be meeting people on a day-to-day basis, there is a lot of maneuvering that you will have to do within whatever system you are in, whether it's an institute, whether it's a company, whatever. So social skills always, they'll trump everything you have after a certain amount of time in the field.
And were you ever afraid of taking a wrong turn? Because a lot of us do it, but we learn through our mistakes. So yeah. What about the two of you?
I can take that up. I have taken a lot of wrong turns in life. Like I said before, I didn't do well at the end of my graduation. I, happened on a lot of things by accident. I found this diploma while I was looking for things. I didn't do well here. I didn't do that well there. You will have a lot of conflict with your parents. I don't know if that plays on everybody's minds. It definitely used to play on mine. When I said, I don't want to get into engineering and I want to pursue this BSc stats that none of you knows about, I faced a lot of flack. People, family, friends, everybody questioning whether I was sane enough to be allowed to make this choice for myself. But eventually realized that no matter what you do, there are always ways to make up for it somewhere in the future. So don't be afraid to take risks. Like right now is the time when you should be taking risks. If you don't do it right now, you're not going to have time to do it later. It's okay to mess up right now because you have a long time to make up for it. That doesn't mean I'm saying don't study for your 12th. I am saying you should study for your 12th. But if you don't do as well as you expected, it's fine. There is a lot of time for you to do better in the future, is what I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to make a mistake. And once you do, just sit back and try to understand what went wrong and how can you do better. That is the most important part of the entire thing.
Yeah, I'm cognizant of time, but Suniti, I think we should take this really wonderful question from Anupama Mehra before we close, which is, we talk about 21st century skills in students. What aspects of your personality got shaped at school, which still holds you in good stead?
Okay, do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so I will kind of circle back a little bit to the social skills. And what I'll also bring out is the fact that over time, with the different experiences that you have, you kind of change. So for example, I started off as an introvert, but now I'm leading a team. So I'm pretty much on the other side of the spectrum. So different experiences over time also kind of shape you in a different way. But yeah, bringing to the same point, social skills, whatever you develop in terms of your networking, your ability to communicate, your ability to explain something complicated in a more simplest or the simplest form that you can think of, is one of the main aspects that I took away from the initial part of my journey.
Yeah. So social skills, definitely, because I think school is one place where, you get a lot of do-overs. I can't yell at my boss and later go and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I take it back. Let's just go back to the way we were. As opposed to that, in a social setting at school, I can probably fight with somebody and, revisit that relationship again. So I think what Nitin Kaka mentioned before, which is conflict resolution, is something I think that stayed with me. I was always a very aggressive person and, tended to pick fights with people over the slightest disagreements. You don't agree with my political opinions? Here, let's have a fight. but I think through school and through sort of interacting with people in who have different points of views, I think I've learned to kind of temper myself when it comes to my opinions. Also, have a more balanced outlook. I tend not to pick extremes as much as I did when I was younger. And then obviously, like Ankit said, what is very important is the ability to simplify something. One thing that somebody, I can't remember who, used to constantly tell me is, you've only understood something if you can explain it to a 5-year-old. So if you think about everything like that, I think you will get to that's what I started doing in graduate school. I understand stats how I would explain it to a 5-year-old. So
Yeah.
I think
So-
that's one thing I would take with
So
me.
so for me, the really interesting part of the answer from both of you, Ankit and Shivani, is that you didn't once talk about getting better marks. You're constantly talking about how you relate to people, how you're able to communicate better, how you are able to resolve conflict. And that is, that is why this is such an important question, that, these are the things that ultimately take on a larger than life role in how your career shapes up. That's my experience too. So thanks for validating that is as young professionals. So over to you, Suniti.
All right. So, yeah, there's another question here that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in. So, okay, what are the different verticals in an organization for data science graduates, and what is the difference between data science, data analyst, and business analyst?
Okay. So in terms of different verticals, so you'll find a lot of different companies that are focused on different verticals. So for example, a company that is doing marketing analytics and data science and marketing will be very different from the organization that is working in uh, healthcare analytics and data science in that. So you have different verticals as such, and the companies are also usually tailored to that because they build an expertise in one or two different areas to start with. Okay. Question two, with respect to a data analyst and a data scientist and a business analyst. So a data analyst is closer to the data, does need a little bit of coding, like I said earlier. And the objective is, can I bring insights out of my data? Can I visualize it in a pretty system so that I can show it to my users? Like, this is how I can solve your problem. This is what is going wrong, and so on and so forth. These are the questions that you're answering. Data science becomes a little more complicated in the sense that you're trying to build models that use the data to make some kind of predictions. But data science is a broad term because what a data analyst does, a data scientist also has to do. So it's an addendum of not only a data analyst work, but also more stuff associated with it. And then the third aspect that you talked about, which is business analyst. Business analyst becomes more closer to the management or the consulting side of things and more concerned about the domain. So they're more like the go between the client who has put together some requirements to you, and you're putting together some information, some analysis, some insight there to showcase it to the end user.
Right. So just a quick add-on to that. I think a simple way to understand it is a data analyst is more focused on learning today from what is happening right now. A data scientist takes both what I learned today and tries to gain an insight into what may happen tomorrow. That is, I think, a very, very simplified difference between the two. And a business analyst would take both of this information and try and dumb it down for the client. So, I am a client. I don't understand this mathematical mumbo jumbo. Why don't you tell me in terms of marketing? Why don't you tell me how much money I need to invest in XYZ advertisement so that people start buying my product? So a business analyst will convert the data science and data analyst numbers and explain it to me, the client, in a way that I understand.
Cool. Suniti, you are on mute.
Yeah, I think we are done now with the questions. We've kind of covered almost everything here. Yeah, so I have been taking those questions as priority which affect the children, and more than going deeper into into a post graduation, because right now they are looking at the 11th and 12th and the undergrad. So yeah, obviously, I mean, one of the questions was that, is maths you have to take, I mean, in 11th and 12th to get into data sciences. Yeah. So one more question here. Yeah. No, that's about it. We are done. We are done. Yeah. And thank you so much, Ankit and Shivani, for giving us your time and answering all these questions. It's been a fantastic session. Really.
I
Thank
think
you
it was
so
a
much.
lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us as well. It was a good experience.
Yeah. And you have helped a lot of people. I mean, you've really given a lot of information from your own experience. So the great thing about this is that this is based on your real life experience. You answered everything very candidly, and there's a lot of appreciation and love for you flowing on the chat window. So well deserved. Thank you very, very much for your time and expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just FYI, we'll share the presentation with you, and you can forward it to whoever wishes to see it.
Anybody can help.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night, and
night.
best of luck. Our best to from flashcards to both of you, Shivani and Ankit, for a wonderful career. We would love to see you on the cover of Time sometime. And all the very best to our wonderful students who signed in and listened to Ankit and Shivani. And very good night to all of you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.